One of the rides that I get to do is, well, I get to do it because I drop off the kids at school for soccer at around 4, and then I gotta pick them up later at night. So it gives me about an hour, hour and a half of riding. So this is a ride I get to do, and that means I can't go that far, but it also allows me some opportunities to explore what's near the area, and it can be a little bit interesting.
Okay, that was longer than I thought it should have been. But this is gonna be a different style video. So as you can see, I'm riding in the afternoon, and I'm not gonna edit a lot of the footage. What you see is basically it's gonna be 35 minutes straight of riding, and I gotta say, a lot of these short rides are pretty interesting. It's not just going up a hill and just seeing scenery. There's going to be people, there's going to be different textures, different terrains. So,
There you go.
due to my recent circumstances, I started sneaking in short rides near the shop. And a lot of these short rides can be a little bit interesting, especially if I'm exploring. So, if you'll notice also, this is a new format. I'm going to be doing a podcast style voiceover. I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I might do this format a little more often. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, here I am in the inner parts of, I believe this is Subang Dako.
Okay, I guess that's kind of interesting. And we're gonna go down there, see where that heads to. Oh, that's trash. Hello.
Steep downhill. So I found out recently that there's a lot of inner roads near the shop, and I don't know where those inner roads go. So this is going to
There you
be a little
go.
bit of exploring. She basically said that this is a dead end. You know, getting lost is all part of it, man. People tend to be friendly, and
Wani resultanan, ma'am? Okay, thank you.
I tend to talk to a lot of people when I'm going on these exploration rides because they tend to know where to go.
So that was a dead end. Agiko.
Oh, she was just like not stopping going downhill while I was huffing and puffing going up.
Agiko, thank you. Pew pew.
So take note, I am an above average sized male Filipino. So people don't tend to mess with me, and if they do, I am on a bike, so I am usually a lot faster than people on foot. Usually when I go on rides, I like to check my Strava after the rides, and sometimes I'll see what that I may have missed, roads that I may have missed that could lead somewhere. And in one of my previous rides, I saw a road that seemed interesting. So I'm basically looking for it right now. You'll see that I still have not found it.
boss na nilusutan na nga boss. Narira? Wala, balik lang sa wala na. Ay, kita lagi ko work done.
Purasa ka?
Awa, balik ako sa highway.
Di boss. Gari na masaka.
It's basically giving me directions.
Left side? Okay. Kita magud ko nga na murag lusot-lusot ba?
Did in ani? Nice. Ang ano to law, sir. Kay nagadas kang kutsiya?
Sige na.
Asa naman doon?
Sige, thank you boss ha.
Ako tawag ka na.
Tubag naman.
Ha? Ano ka sayang kay address mo? Di ka blame sa
Kung ara boss, asa man na siya pa dong? Wala sad na. Right? Sige. Thank you.
I just realized after listening to those two drivers talking, I think I know the person they were talking about. Funny. So you saw that I looked at my Strava,
Ay, sorry boss
and
ha.
there's a certain road that I'm looking for.
So I saw a route on Strava and I didn't plot it on my bike computer or anything. So I'm looking for that right turn. So that next right is what I'm looking for.
So currently on this ride, I brought my Canyon Inflite. The Canyon Inflite, if you don't know, is a cyclocross bike. But I currently have it on my... It is currently on my road bike setup. So it has 32 Maxxis Refuse tires. And it's funny, the 700 by 32 Maxxis Refuse. So they're supposed to be 32 mm wide, right? If you do an actual measurement, it is much closer to 30. It is much closer to 34 mm. So a pretty decent gravel tire, and fast enough for me on the road.
Looks like it's this one.
But you'll see later that the Surly Midnight Special would have probably been a better option.
Probably should have brought my bigger tired bike. Hello. Agi go. Thank you.
And then down here was something I found really interesting. In fact, I kind of really liked this route. I feel like I will be back. Maybe the other direction where it's a uphill on this off-road bit. But if you'll see on the right, I couldn't resist.
Boss, kung mo straight kung ara ba, pabalik na sa daan or dead end na?
Patabok.
Okay, kani.
Interviewin mo ni.
Wala. Tuyo ka nga.
Oo.
Ha? So, ila kong tuyok-tuyok nga isa niya. Balik ko gawas. Thank you, ha? Yeah, we're gonna explore the cemetery a little bit.
Yeah, cemeteries, man, they're interesting. Unfortunately, this one had a lot of trash. I mean, I probably complain about it every now and then in videos, but yeah, unfortunately, here in the Philippines, people do not respect their environment. They just throw Trash everywhere. It is kind of sad.
Definitely should have brought the thicker tired bike.
We're gonna talk about the
Get
Surly
this.
Midnight Special and my future plans with it. But maybe after this little section.
Kind of a crazy scene.
So if you don't know, inside those square boxes on the left and right, it's basically yeah, that's where people are buried. There's something about visiting cemeteries, and then I tend to look at like when they were born and when they died. A little reminder that nothing lasts forever. So make the most out of it, I guess.
This is actually really near. I'm only like 15 minutes into the ride, and already it's somewhere that I've never been before. And although I did not think I was going to be visiting a cemetery when I went out on the ride today, it's interesting.
Surprisingly, not a lot of people like to really explore. I mean, at least not a lot of people in my circle. Not many people just go out and ride and go to these places that they've never been before. And I mean, I have some theories why they don't do it. You know, there's a fear for some people. There's a fear of getting lost, fear of something might happen to them. But I don't know. I get so much out of it, to be honest. Like, it's so fun for me. And this is like literally 20 minutes into the ride, and I'm I don't know. I get so much out of it. I don't know. I feel like it's a broken record. I keep repeating it in a lot of videos, but it's one of the things that I enjoy the most about cycling. Anyway, on to the Surly Midnight Special. So, with the Surly Midnight Special, it currently has that Fox 32 gravel fork and 700C tires. And although I really like that setup, one issue that I am finding is that when so it's a size 54, right? And for my height, the size 54 fits, but just barely. So if I stand over the top tube bar, I can fit the stand over height, but it's cutting it close. And what happens is when you put the 700C tires and then you put the Fox gravel fork, the bike becomes even taller. And when I'm on the bike, it's not really a problem. But for example, one of the reasons why I decided to use the Inflite for this ride, even though I knew that I would probably be doing significant gravel sections, significant off-road sections where the Surly Midnight Special would feel so much better. You're eventually going to see that I'm going to get stuck in traffic, and when I get stuck in traffic, I have to put a foot down. And when I put a foot down on the Canyon Inflite, I can still, I tilt the bike a little bit and I still stay on the saddle, and then I can put a foot down and still be comfortable. When I do the same thing on the Surly Midnight Special, since the whole bike is a little bit taller, I kind of have to tiptoe, and it's fine. But when I'm waiting for stoplights, I'll notice that it'll start to get uncomfortable. So I opted for the Inflite for this ride.
I have no idea where I am.
Yeah, I'm just following the road here. But in the future, I have some plans for the Surly Midnight Special. I have some plans, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do all of it. So in my head, I'm going to make the Surly Midnight Special like a China edition, where the frame's going to be Surly. I'm going to change the fork, put a China carbon gravel fork on it, which I've gotten pretty decent reviews.
There's the main road.
Basically, the reviews say that it's not going to explode while I go off-road with it. So that's the hope. Because I'm going to do a lot of off-roading with the Surly Midnight Special. So anyway, I'm going to put that. It's called a Cosevlo carbon gravel fork. And then also, I'm going to change it back to 650B wheels.
This is why the main road sucks.
So here I am. I'm stuck in traffic, and the Canyon Inflite just so much better in traffic than the Surly Midnight Special, because the Surly Midnight Special is just too tall. But anyway, I'm gonna change it to the 650B wheel, so that's gonna make the whole bike a little bit lower. But also, to be honest, the Surly Midnight Special, the best I've ever felt on it, the best feeling that I've ever felt on it was when I had my whiskey carbon fork, and then it had the 650B off-road tires. I forgot what tires they were. They were WTB tires, and like really big knobby tires. And the bike, when it had 650Bs on it, just felt really good. It felt light. It felt agile. It felt like it could, it felt really maneuverable. I'm not sure if it was the fastest on a straight line, but I remember a couple of years back when I had that setup on, it felt really good going off-road and having fun with that bike. So I find myself thinking about that feeling a lot, and I want to get that feeling back. So that's the plan. Change it back to carbon fork, go back to 650B wheels. I'll probably use tires, or I'll probably use like more traditional gravel tires, something that is decently fast on tarmac and decently good
Let's try to get out of the traffic.
on off-road. Because I'll probably be doing a lot of both with this early midnight special. So that's going to be the immediate change. But also, I'm thinking about getting these China cranks. So currently I have these race face I think cranks, and I mean they're fine to be, but there's something annoying about them that is very specific to me. Like there's a thing that sticks out that rubs on my foot because my feet, they're like penguins. My toes stick out and then my ankles are in. So if you notice that in almost all my bikes, I have like a rub on the crank. And on the Inflite, I was able to put these extenders that make the pedals further out from the cranks. And I haven't done that with the Surly Midnight Special because I don't really know how to explain it, but the crank in the Surly Midnight Special is already quite wide. It's really a mountain bike crank, so I think it's already wide to begin with, and I don't know if I want to make it wider. So later this year or probably next year, I'll probably buy these Evo Sid cranks, put a 38 or a 40 on it, and then also possibly buy.
Sucks.
Yeah, the traffic sucks. And then also I'd possibly buy a ZTTO super light or ultra light cassette, probably an 1148 or 1150, one of those, as long as it fits the GRX. But if I get even more budget, in a way it'll probably be a downgrade, but I might take, because all right, let me segue a little bit into a little rant that I have about Shimano components. Now, not really a rant, I guess. I guess this is a good thing because there's really been a lot of product from China lately, and here in the shop we end up seeing, a lot of different brands, and it's made me want to experiment a little bit with the China-based group sets, right? So one of my frustrations is that if you want a hydraulic group set on your bike
Can't
right
imagine
now,
having to go through this every day, man.
if you want it to be Shimano, then automatically you have to get a GRX.
It's like a modern day torture, but the people you're torturing, they don't know about it.
So the GRX is about 35,000 pesos, and like if you want a fairly affordable bike here in the Philippines, automatically you're going to spend more than 50,000 pesos if you want hydraulic brakes. And anything lower than 50,000 pesos, you're kind of stuck with these crappy mechanical brakes. And it's frustrating because if most people who are buying a bike that's less than 50,000 pesos, they're probably the ones who are new to cycling. So you want them to have the best brakes basically, because there's a learning curve with cycling, and for them to be as safe as possible, you want them to have the best brakes. Unfortunately, the best brakes right now are reserved for bikes that are much more expensive. So I've been doing some research, and I noticed there's this group set called L2 GRT, and I believe it's 11 speed, already hydraulic brakes, and it's currently much cheaper at 18,000 pesos. Unfortunately, it still doesn't come with a crank or cassette. That's why I need to buy a crank and cassette also. But still, that's still far from 35,000. If I wanted an even cheaper version of it, L2 has a mechanical group set called GR7, I think. GR7 and GR9. I think the GR7 is a 10 speed and GR9 is a 9 speed. I think you can get the GR7 shifters and derailleur for 4,000 pesos.
What is this guy doing?
So you still need to buy brakes, and if you have the mechanical, so for flat mount, it seems like right now the most cost effective, great brakes are these Jointech F1s. I think that's what they're called. They're basically mechanical brakes. They're basically cable actuated hydraulic brakes.
Whoop! Fucking A, man.
Yeah, look at that, guys. I was gonna shout at him, but then I saw his back. It says Mandaue traffic. Anyway, so these cable actuated hydraulic brakes, they basically still use mechanical. They still use cables to actuate them, but the cables are connected to some sort of mechanism that is connected to actual hydraulic pistons. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a very smart person. But basically, it brakes really well. The feedback from those brakes have been really good. And and they cost about 7,500 pesos. So if you have 4,000 for those L2 GR7s and then 7,500 for the Jointech, that goes to, my math is not great, 11,500.
First instinct was to shout at the guy, then I read the back of his shirt.
So I'm thinking that I might actually do that option. We'll see. Because, my vision for the Villain Cycles bike shop is I want to get people to fall in love with cycling, and people don't always have a big budget, right? So for those who don't have a big budget, I want to point them in the direction of good value for money upgrade, and for a lot of these bikes that are less than 50,000 pesos, the best value for money upgrade would be the brakes. And I want to make sure that I try it out for myself. So I might do that, but also that still means I still need to spend some money, and I'm very finicky with money. I'm what they would call tihik. So maybe later on next year. But I'm excited for that build. And if you are listening to this and have any experience whatsoever with any of those components that I mentioned, please let me know about it. I would like to hear your experience. So here I am, I'm biking to this spot that is quite nice, especially towards the end of the day. You're gonna see it. But before we get there, let me give huge congratulations to everyone who finished the Villain Virtual Challenge. People have been coming in and collecting their medals, and it seems like the feedback is really positive. People were happy that I organized this. I mean, I organized this contest, this challenge, I should say, and I like that 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 cyclists are starting to explore these areas, these mountain back road areas, and because there's a lot of really good riding there. The only thing is, a lot of those areas are a little bit difficult to ride to. They can be kind of hard, like a lot of climbing, a lot of mountains, and some of them are quite far. But the feedback has been great. Hopefully, I'll do it again next year. My plan for the shop, and this is a very loose plan because I'll need a lot of help with it. But the very loose plan with the shop would be every year there would be 3 events, right? One checkpoint race, very similar to the very first snowboarding race that I did, where everybody starts in one spot, and then there's a couple of checkpoints that they have to reach, and
I want to go to this good spot.
and then in those checkpoints, they have to prove that they were in those. They have to prove that they were in those checkpoints. So usually, just take a picture, and then the first one to finish all the checkpoints and head back to the finish line wins. So that's like a little race. And then the second event that I plan to do is a more traditional race, kind of like the no boring race that we did early in mid 2024. And that was
I
just
mean,
like
I
a
hope this reaches the good spot. I'm not sure it does. Agiko!
and that was more of
Thank
a
you.
traditional type of gravel race where there's a route and you have to finish the route, and first to finish wins.
Agiko! Thank you. Time's up, time's up, time's up, time's up, time's up, time's up, time's up. Thank you.
There's a lot of traffic where I'm going. The thing with that type of race is that it's really difficult to organize. So
hello.
UTB was a big help with that, and I'm hoping UTB helps me with
Them kids
those
are
2
crazy.
races. And then the third one, which I can do myself, is basically
Hello.
the virtual event. So I hope to do those 3 types of events every year from the shop. Events are really important for building a community and encouraging people to ride their bike. So this little area I kinda enjoy. You'll see it's pretty cool. That's the thing about cycling in the afternoon. There's so much happening. Let's see if this kid can do it. Oh, I missed it. So basically, this is this big road under the bridge that doesn't really go anywhere right now.
Watch out for them.
But you'll see on the left that they're doing a lot of construction. And I go through that. There, you see that open area. There's a lot of construction going there. And maybe I can figure out a little gravel loop. So I'm going to come back to this area and see what else is up here. Unfortunately, the camera cuts somewhere. Let me know what you think about this style of video. I felt like I was a bit I felt like I was a little bit rusty in the beginning, but I got into it later on. Maybe I'll do another style video like this soon. All right, ciao.
So the battery died, so I had to put it back on the thing. So it keeps charging. But this is where we are. pretty neat. And that's probably where I'll end the video, so I can just ride. Ciao, subscribe.